understanding the difference between losing weight in a healthy way versus an unhealthy way. So to keep this as simple as possible, yes, there is a healthy way of losing weight, and there is also an unhealthy way of losing weight. What's the difference? Easy. One is healthy, the other is not. That's it. But at the very core of this topic of healthy versus unhealthy is it doesn't really matter which route you decide to take, because they will both accomplish the same thing. Again, the only difference is one is unhealthy and the other is healthy. You pick, I don't care. And it's interesting how people get so emotionally attached to this, because if people would just use common sense, then there wouldn't even be any argument when it comes to approaching weight loss. It's like, yes, if you're nice and healthy, you know what you're doing, you're willing to make specific sacrifices, then technically doing it in an unhealthy way, quote unquote, is totally fine, especially if your goal is simply to lose weight. But if you're that one guy who likes to take into consideration specific health issues, then yes, obviously it's much better to take the healthier approach to weight loss. But something I really want to emphasize when thinking specifically about this is, look, at the end of the day, looking at it from a perspective of simply dropping weight, it doesn't matter if you do it in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. A deficit will always work, whether you choose to do it in a healthy way or unhealthy way. How you choose to approach it is totally up to you. If you have underlying health issues and willingly choose to do it in an unhealthy way, that's not my problem. That's not what I'm trying to encourage. And like I said earlier, if you just use a little bit of common sense, you know that that's not the right approach. Same thing can be said the other way around. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people like to debate about having to be in a deficit as not being something ultimately necessary. And I strongly disagree that a calorie deficit is not necessarily needed in some cases. That's just straight up stupidity. That's like saying you can still overeat and lose the weight. That makes no sense. So remember, guys, a calorie deficit, and to put it in more simple terms if it is still hard for whatever reason to understand, eating less, and I mean much less, will always work, regardless of how unhealthy you are and regardless of how educated some people think they are, to prove that it doesn't work. A calorie deficit, less food, will always make a person lose weight, regardless of it being healthy or unhealthy. Please, for the love of all that is unhealthy, never forget that fact. And if you do and still don't believe that fact to be true, I have no idea what else to tell you. Anyway, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, go ahead and give it a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And with that said, I will see you guys next time.